It's now time to introduce our first speaker of the day, and that's Rotary Great Britain Ireland President Tom Griffin. Now, Tom is a proud Scotsman, and he joined Rotary in 1984, but just exactly the same as I did, he attended his first Rotary meeting much earlier when he was only 18. Like many of our clubs do towards the end of each academic year, Kirkintilloch Rotary Club, which is just outside Glasgow, invited a school leaver to talk about what they were going to do when they left school. And in Tom's year, he was given the job of speaking to the club. In 1972, he moved to Ayrshire and got involved with some projects between Round Table and Rotary, where both organisations had been doing things in that community. Then, in 1984, Tom joined the Selkirk Rotary Club in the Borders. Over the years, his relocation for work has meant that he's also been a member of Malden Rotary Club in Essex, and now Woodbridge Devon Rotary Club in Suffolk. Please welcome Rotary Great Britain Ireland President for 2020-2021, President Tom Griffin. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Alistair. Thank you for that welcome and thank you for your invitation. And perhaps I should point out that I have lived a fairly peripatetic life. I was born in Hamilton, but when I was 6 weeks old, my parents moved to Dunfermline, and so I lived virtually the first 10 years of my life in your district. Although, unlike you, Alistair, I'm not a Fifer. But I do have strong affiliations with your district as well as most other parts of Scotland. So thank you for the invitation. It's been a strange year for everyone, hasn't it? Over the last few years, the role of the Rotary GB&I President has changed. I know when I was DG 9 years ago, the President that year spent much of his year touring the districts. More recently, that has ceased to be the case, and the President has concentrated much more on leading the association. I have found myself taking that bit about not touring the districts to the extreme. I'm just about 9 months into office, and I've hardly left my house. So there have been some disappointments there, and I've missed the opportunity to meet people face to face. I've missed the opportunity to go to a number of events. But there have been many positives. Positives in the sense that I have been able to visit a lot of clubs and districts through the wonderful medium of Zoom. Visits that I could never have made physically in the time available. And there have been many positives for Rotary as a whole. Clubs generally have shown themselves to be adaptable, to be willing to embrace new ways of doing things. And this morning's meeting is a classic example of that. As you yourself said in your introduction, Alistair, Rotary has responded magnificently to community needs during the pandemic, helping the housebound, supporting food banks, buying computers for kids studying at home, buying PPE, and more recently helping at mass vaccination centres. And in a lot of the GB&I area, our great contribution to local communities during the pandemic is at last actually being recognised. We're getting the public awareness and public image benefits of that. And on a wider point, but also positive, in the community as a whole, we've seen that community spirit, the willingness to volunteer to help those in need, is far from dead. So, where does that take us? What are the lessons from Rotary in lockdown? I think the first is that we must be ready to grasp the opportunities that these positives offer us. We need to be clear about what we're trying to achieve and how we are going to achieve it. Last year, RI President Holger Knack said that he wanted all clubs to hold an annual strategic meeting at which they would examine themselves and where they thought they would be in 5 years' time. And I think that kind of strategic thinking and planning is even more important now. And I would say if clubs haven't already done so, I would encourage them to do so now. With any luck, in a few months, we will be able to meet in a more flexible way. We might be able to meet the way we used to. And we need now to be thinking about what that means and how our clubs will operate when we have that greater flexibility. And I say that because the COVID-19 pandemic is a massively disruptive event. It's on the par of major wars or great technological change. We cannot expect the post-COVID world to look the same as it did in 2019. And we cannot expect the post-COVID Rotary world to look as it did in 2019. And as I say, as we start to see the end of lockdown, we need to be thinking about what we have learned in the last few months and what that means for our club. So that's the first lesson I take from our current situation. The second is that we mustn't become so preoccupied with COVID-19 that we forget the bigger Rotary picture. First and foremost, we must continue the fight to eradicate polio. We must remember that however close we are, however wonderful it is that the World Health Organization's Africa region is free of the wild polio virus, the task isn't finished. And unless we finish the job, the disease will return. And you know, it should be a matter of pride that elements of infrastructure put in place for polio eradication have proved immensely valuable during the COVID pandemic. Elements such as disease surveillance and strategies for disease control in remote communities. Now, of course, it's unavoidable that clubs' fundraising activities have suffered badly during the pandemic. But one of the consequences has been that contributions from GB&I to end polio are about 30% down compared with the previous year. Somehow we need to try to turn that round. 30 years ago, we made a promise to the children of the world. We must see through on that promise. So much has been achieved. Let's not waste that achievement. The third lesson I take from our current situation relates to our membership. Now, I make no apology for banging on about membership. Without members, we cannot bring to the world the benefits of our service. Unless we continually refresh our membership, we will stagnate, shrink, and cease to be an effective force in our communities. And that is a real risk. Last Rotary year, in GB&I, we lost almost 2,000 members. That's the equivalent of an entire district. And the average age of our membership continues to rise. And moreover, 30 years after we welcomed women into Rotary, only about 17% of Rotarians in Great Britain and Ireland are female. And our overall record of diversity in membership is poor. Now, as I've said many times, I have no problem with white British males aged over 70, not least because I am one. And RI President Holger is equally right when he says there is no wrong age to be a Rotarian. But clubs, which are largely composed of Rotarians past normal retirement age, are inevitably likely to be less active, to struggle to find members willing to accept club office, and are certainly not likely to be attractive to potential young Rotarians, individuals of the age I was when I joined Rotary half a lifetime ago. That's a potentially bleak picture. But you know, I'm quite optimistic about our future, and I'm optimistic for three reasons. First, is that today Rotarians have an unrivaled opportunity to breathe life into what I always think of as the forgotten avenue of Rotary service, vocational service. We have in our membership an enormous and largely untapped reservoir of business and professional knowledge and experience at a time where our economy is facing perhaps its biggest challenge for 90 years. We have the opportunity to use those skills to create and support, for example, social enterprise initiatives, an opportunity to demonstrate just what we have to offer to our local communities to meet real need. I've already alluded to my second reason for optimism, the fact that during the pandemic, many people have discovered the joy of volunteering. What an opportunity for Rotary to tap into. Fine, you may say, but in the past few decades, we've been poor at bringing in younger members. Why should things change now? You may make the point that you don't need to join a club and pay dues to give service to your community. You don't have to join a club and pay dues to be connected. So why should someone join Rotary? The answer is that Rotary has so much more to offer. No, you don't need to join a club and pay dues to give service, but in Rotary, you have the opportunity to serve not just locally, not just your local community, but nationally and internationally. Rotary opens to members the opportunity of being part of a truly global family. It opens to members the opportunity to harness the power and reach of the Rotary Foundation so as massively to increase the impact of their service at home and overseas. Surveys of younger people indicate that they are as keen to give something back to society as any other generation, that they welcome mentoring, and significantly that they want to be part of something big and have a global rather than a purely local perspective. Doesn't that sound like Rotary? So why have we failed so badly to refresh and rejuvenate our membership? I think it's because too often we inadvertently put obstacles in the way of younger people joining us. Obstacles in terms of the time and cost commitment we expect. Obstacles in the form of clubs whose style and culture strikes a potential younger member as old-fashioned. So when we look to life after lockdown, we need to be asking ourselves, is our club attractive to the next generation of Rotarians? If the answer is yes, that's great. If no, or maybe, what are you going to do about it? Can we make our club more attractive to this potential younger generation? Because if we can't, then I believe clubs should be looking to start new clubs which are. And the options are there. We have much more flexibility now in how Rotary works, how clubs can run themselves. We can start a satellite club with 8 members. We no longer need to wait until we have 20 so we can charter an entirely new club. We have new models, clubs which meet informally, clubs which are less demanding on members' time or pocket, clubs which are more family friendly, clubs which are focused on the kind of service their members want, cause-based clubs. The challenges, what I call the obstacles, which inadvertently we put in the way of younger people joining us, can easily be overcome. I believe that in Great Britain and Ireland, we need to set ourselves the target of ensuring that there is a vibrant, active club in each of our significant communities. If it doesn't currently exist, then let's create it. All that is needed is to find a small group of interested people and help them to grow a new club. It can be done. It has been done. My third reason for optimism lies in our new direct membership initiative, which Rotary GB&I has launched. People who are attracted by the prospect of Rotary but can't find a club which suits their lifestyle can join direct at minimal cost and hopefully find others in their neighbourhood with whom they can then get together and start a new club. There is much that clubs can and need to do to grasp the opportunities open to us today to refresh and revitalise Rotary. But districts and Rotary GB&I itself need to be as effective as possible in providing the leadership, guidance, encouragement and support to clubs which are contributing to this effort and in taking the initiative themselves to create new clubs. For that reason, Rotary GB&I is taking two initiatives. First, we're encouraging districts to cooperate, to work together, to share resources where they find it difficult because of declining numbers to fill all the posts they are expected to fill. Now, Rotary GB&I cannot, of course, legislate to make districts cooperate. And so the pace at which districts will work together will be determined by the districts themselves, dependent on their own circumstances. And this will be an evolutionary process, with different areas moving at different speeds. Second, Governing Council will be recommending to the business meeting on the 21st of May a significant reform of Rotary GB&I's governance. Currently, our governing body comprises the officers of Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, people like me, and the 25 district governors of the districts in Britain and Ireland. So we have a governing body of around 31 people, which is pretty unwieldy in terms of its size, at least 26 of whom change every year. So there's practically no continuity. Each year, Governing Council effectively starts from scratch. What's more, 25 of those 31 are there not because they necessarily have the skills, background and experience to serve on the Governing Council or are necessarily even interested in doing so, but because they have been elected to an important job, leading their district. Governing Council is, in effect, a second job. For some, at worst, it's a distraction from their important principal job of leading their district. If we were designing a governance structure for Rotary GB&I today, we would not create what we have. Now, Governing Council is a very good vehicle for district governors to share experience, to share solutions to common problems, to work together on initiatives to strengthen their districts. But it's not fit for purpose when it comes to providing a strategic lead to Rotary GB&I. Now, that's not a criticism of current or past district governors. It's a criticism of the structure with which they have and continue to operate. Now, a few years ago, we tried to change that, and the changes were approved by the Rotary GB&I membership at 2 successive annual business meetings. But the changes we were proposing then needed the approval of the RI Council on Legislation, and although they got a majority there, they didn't get the necessary 2/3 majority, so they failed. This year, RI has been examining the possibility of creating regional structures, and that's given us the impetus to look again at how we operate so that we can demonstrate to RI what a successful, effective regional structure might look like. We have a good regional structure. We have some issues with it. We need to address those issues. Addressing those issues will not by themselves address our major problems, particularly our problem of membership, but it will put Rotary and GB&I in a much stronger position to help districts and clubs and to take initiatives itself to address that significant problem, that significant challenge of refreshing and rejuvenating Rotary. And so the current Governing Council will be proposing to the business meeting in May that the governing body be reduced in size to 13 members, a much more manageable number. That 13 will include the General Secretary, Amanda Watkin, who of course won't have a vote, but the remaining 12 will each serve for 3 years, and their term of service will be staggered so that 1/3 will retire each year, thus giving us the continuity that currently is so sadly lacking. And as I see, this will enable the new governing body to take a multi-year approach to the big strategic issues, allocating resources and directing Rotary GB&I's activities most effectively. Moreover, we propose that the majority of those members will be selected in a way which will ensure that those who are serving in the new body, which we'll be calling the Rotary GB&I Board, have the skills, knowledge, and experience we need in the governing body. And we're proposing that any active Rotarian in these islands may put themselves forward for consideration for membership of the board, not just past district governors, so that we can tap into the whole reservoir of talent in our membership, not just those who have previously put themselves forward to be a DG. The board will be accountable to the annual business meeting in a way which the current body, comprising as it does mainly DGs, cannot be. This time, the changes we are putting forward do not need the approval of council and legislation. If Rotary GB&I's membership approves them this May, they can be put into effect. The change will also enable us to do away with the current executive committee, thus removing a tier of governance. In parallel with this, we are proposing to establish a forum on which the 25 district governors will sit, which the board must consult on major issues, and which can provide the vehicle for district governors to share ideas, solutions, their own initiatives, and so on. If these proposals are approved by the business meeting in May, the next 6 months will be taken up with putting more detail in place and recruiting the inaugural board members, with the board going live on the 1st of July 2022. I encourage clubs to make sure that their voting delegates for the business meeting are registered, to encourage the delegates to attend on the 21st of May, 7 p.m. online, to listen to the debate and to support these important proposals. I do so because I believe we stand at a threshold for our great organisation. The COVID pandemic has thrown up a myriad of problems which we've addressed remarkably well, but also a host of opportunities. Let's grasp them. This year, RI President Holger chose as his theme, Rotary Opens Opportunities. When he did so, I don't think he could have believed that it would be such an appropriate theme, because Rotary does open opportunities. It opens up to us the opportunity to be part of a worldwide group of people who share our values, our ideals, and a code of ethics to which we adhere in our personal and business lives. It opens up to us opportunities for fun, fellowship, satisfaction in doing good, personal growth, the opportunity to exercise leadership in our clubs and in our communities. It has opened and continues to open to millions throughout the world the opportunity to go to school, to have access to medical services, to have access to clean water. And it has opened and will continue to open to millions throughout the world the greatest opportunity of all, the opportunity of life itself. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for listening. Stay well, good luck, and let's grow Rotary together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Great to hear from you, and great to hear your ideas. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they'd like to put to Tom before we move on? rapidly scanning screens here. I'm not seeing anyone. If anyone wants to say anything, please. All right, Peter Vermeulen.
Yeah, Tom, I've been harping on about it to our district for quite a while, but why does Rotary International need so much cash from us? Why does Rotary GB&I need so much cash from us? It is a big issue with attracting new members in my area. Many people, I think we could attract to be members, but they cannot afford that £67 per year. It is just too much. We are helping them with food banks. I know these people. I'm knocking on their doors, and they would be great Rotarians, and they would love to be Rotarians, but can't afford it. They're friends of our Rotary Club, and that is the best that we can offer them. But these people are being excluded because of the cost for us to help in our communities. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. I mean, I think there's two questions there. There's one about RI and there's one about Rotary GB&I. But beforehand, I will just pick up on the premise behind your comment. Yes, there will be people who find £67 a year a challenge, but let's just put that in perspective. Just think about how much £67 is. It's less than a cup of coffee a week. It is not a lot of money. It is not, to some people, of course, it will be a lot of money, but to the vast majority of people, frankly, it's not a lot of money. What do you get from it? You get all the support that is available from RI. You get the training which RI and Rotary GB&I provide to Rotary leaders. You get, as Ewan mentioned earlier on, you get insurance, or clubs get insurance free of charge. That doesn't come at nil cost. You get the market, you get the initiatives such as the Rotary Global Hub I mentioned before, which the direct membership initiative, which is essential if we're going to try to grow our membership. Now, you know, a lot of the time when I speak to clubs and districts, they say two things. One, why doesn't Rotary do a lot of television advertising in order to draw people's attention to what we do and get new members? And two, why does Rotary charge £67 a year for its membership? Think about that. We do what we can in terms of promotion, but everything we do costs some money, and the support which you get costs actually not very much in real terms. But, and this is when we come to the but, Rotary in 1010 would cost you £67 for RI and Rotary GB&I. And I think in a normal year, what, £14 for district sub? So that takes us to £81. And let's add a little bit for club administration. I don't know. My club isn't very good at keeping its fees down, so we're not typical. But you don't pay a lot there. So say you're talking about, I don't know, £10 a month, £120 a year. But you know, Rotary doesn't cost £120 a year. It probably costs you about £1,500 a year. It probably costs you about £1,500 a year because you have a meal every week and you have a drink with that meal and you do special events. They are not essential and integral parts of Rotary. We just add on and add on and add on so that the real cost of Rotary is unaffordable to a lot of our potential members, and particularly our younger members. And that's what we need to be concentrating on. That's what we need to be concentrating on in terms of when we're talking about the cost of Rotary. And And just another point about cost. Every time our membership reduces, the per capita impact on Rotary GB&I becomes greater. Just think, you know, at last Rotary year, £67, we lost 2,000 of those £67. I think that's about £134,000 out of not a very big budget. And so that, you know, when we start to turn the corner and bring in new members, then our financial situation will get easier. So there's a whole lot of answers. There's a whole lot of issues wrapped up in your question, Peter, but thank you for it.
Thank you, Tom.